Okay, so this is a quick journey through the history of Chopper, how I went from being on the benefit and not even knowing how to program to having an App Store success with millions of downloads. It's basically 8 years and 5 minutes. So Chopper is a side-scrolling helicopter game. It was originally released in 2003 for the Mac. It was later released on the iPhone and iPad, and Chopper 2 was released recently for the iPhone, iPad and Mac. So yeah, before I started Chopper, I had spent a couple of months learning basic programming, and then I dived into OpenGL as soon as I could. And basically I played with a few tutorials and came up with something like that, and then went on to making Tetris. After I made Tetris, I went on to create a cannabis growing simulation. I never released this for a few reasons. But that's where the name Magic Jungle Software came from, and yeah, it taught me a lot. These are some early development shots from Chopper. I just started with just having a helicopter flying around, added a few tiles, and yeah, it pretty much grew organically from just having the gameplay initially. I was also working on the level editor at the same time. I found that level editors and the tools take up to around 50% of the development, but without them it would take a lot longer to create the content. Around this time I also got my first job in programming at the Met service, working on TV weather graphics. I thought I'd mention this because I got to see a lot of people using software, and I think that was really valuable, just watching people use it. So this was the first version of Chopper 2. It was actually a 3D environment with day-night transitions and 3D clouds and all sorts. But I ultimately abandoned it because it wasn't any fun. It was just too much freedom, hard to control. And this was when I went back to the side-scroller. This was pretty much the beginnings of Chopper 2, but it was very different. I ended up completely overhauling it, but I kind of had almost a game working there. And during this time I also worked on a number of other apps. This here was Backyard Racing, was also never released. Eyesight Screensavers was released though. It did moderately well as a shareware application. And yeah, this was my website through the years. It went through some pretty terrible transitions there. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time working on the web development side of it as well. So yeah, in 2008 the iPhone came along, and I started work on the port as soon as I could. It was a quick job, only taking 3 months in the end, but it ended up funding the next 3 years of development, and continues to do so. And while it was writing the charts, I thought it would be fun to try a few other things. Up here was Flush Freddy, which was also never released. It was about a alligator flushed down a toilet and navigating the sewers. Which brings us to Chopper 2. Chopper 2 took 16 months of mostly full-time development. It was completed and released for iPhone in July last year, and then released for the Mac last month with the launch of the Mac App Store. This was a very early screenshot of Chopper 2 where I was just trying to get the terrain and physics kind of working. Yeah, the editor actually allowed me to play the game in that view down there, which was hugely valuable in the process of development. As well as creating my own editor, I was also using third-party tools. That's TerraGen up there, with allowed me to generate terrains and skies. And all the elevation data was actually real-world elevation data. I also created a number of my own tools. There's a city generator that I use to generate cities for within the game. And there are other sort of command line tools and a few other things as well I used, created along the way. And not everything I created was actually used in the final game. That one there, I decided that it was just too much work creating all these 3D models, and it didn't really look very good, so I threw away that whole style of level altogether. And that was a Sydney dust storm level that I just kind of did for fun. And this was the final editor. Yeah, creating all the introductory text and fly-throughs was a bit of a pain in the ass, but it seemed to be pretty well received. And yeah, the whole work of creating the editor was difficult, but completely necessary. And in the end, Chopper and Chopper 2 have both done really, really well, with hundreds of thousands of copies sold. Yeah, I'm not sure what the future holds, but it's been a great ride so far.